This is the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty. It's the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
And now, Bob Cordaro.
Well, we're joined in our regular health segment by Dr. Bryan Frantz, and we have a special treat, Dr. Kristen Frantz, who's not only a periodontist, she's a prosthodontist as well, board certified in both. And both of you are here. Welcome. Great to have you, Doctors Frantz.
Oh, good morning, Bob, and thanks for having us.
We've talked in the past, Bryan, about how great it is to have a family operation. It's unusual in a professional setting.
Yep.
So this has got to be a lot of fun.
It is. It's fantastic. And, you know, we're on now about our second or almost third year of this development of our practice where our family's involved in it. You know, Kristen, as you mentioned, is a prosthodontist, which we'll get into shortly, but her sister Andrea is an orthodontist. And, you know, we collaborate a lot on these sort of multidisciplinary cases. So yeah, it's great. We love it. And the exciting thing for us is, you know, bringing this to Northeastern Pennsylvania, as you know, to bring their expertise, you know, to the area is something that I'm so excited about, and I can't wait to share it with our viewers.
So Kristen, we know your background. We know your parents. Yes. They've been on with us before. Tell us about you. And then after we talk about you, I want to know what the heck a prosthodontist is. But let's talk about your background. You saw this. I mean, obviously it's in your genes. But you saw this, your dad practicing.
My dad really inspired me from a young age. I always saw that he loved what he was doing, and it really intrigued me. And I always said from a young age, I wanted to be a periodontist like my dad, just because I saw the pure enjoyment that the field had brought him. Yeah. But when I went to dental school, I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, PA, and I started
Don't skip over the University of Rochester now. You know that's near and dear to Bob and I. So
I went to college at the University of Rochester, and we had a lot of fun times during when you guys both came down to visit. And then after college, I went to dental school at Temple University, and I started to see the benefit of having both the surgical as well as the restorative training. So I decided I wanted to do a dual program. I went on to the Eastman Institute for Oral Health in Rochester, New York.
At the University of Rochester.
At the University of Rochester. I couldn't help going back to Rochester. And I started in the surgical training. So I have a dual specialty in both periodontics as well as prosthodontics.
Tell us what prosthodontics is.
Yes. So prosthodontics is another specialty in dentistry. So we have advanced specialty training in basically rehabilitating compromised smiles. So we have training in everything from replacing a single tooth to replacing, when a patient loses their teeth, replacing a full arch of teeth, a full mouth of teeth. Mm-hmm.
So what you have to know, Bob, is that in dentistry, there's 12 specialties. Okay, medicine, for example, I think there's 28, there's 12. Kristen has dual certification in both the surgical aspect as well as the tooth aspect, if you will, in terms of her background. And it doesn't exist. There's only a handful in the country, literally, that have both. It's a 6-year commitment beyond dental school to get the dual certification. So it was actually one of the only times
when I hear that, I look at you and think you're crazy, but it has paid off quite obviously. It's unique.
It is. And I really feel as if it's valuable because I could make sure that the teeth and, you know, the mouth has a good foundation through my periodontal training, but then also once it has that good foundation to build a proper set of teeth so that we can last, you know, for a lifetime for the patient.
Remarkable.
Yeah. So, you know, some of the cases that we get involved with, Bob, are, you know, a single tooth actually can be a very difficult, you know, an upper front tooth that's fractured and decayed, whatever, can be very difficult to deal with, just as complicated as a full arch. But what we've built in our facility, which I believe is second to none is
anywhere.
I would, and it's funny. I was to that point. I was just in Budapest, Hungary, taking an advanced surgical course with people, colleagues from the United States, from various cities. There was 5 of us, and I would stack our team up against anybody in the country, actually, for what we're doing here in Scranton, and I couldn't do it without Kristen. This is something that we've talked about for a number of years. The expertise that she brings to treat our cases is it's phenomenal. Yeah. So it's really exciting. So
that's a substantial commitment to develop these 2 areas of expertise, which are very complementary.
Yes.
Tell us about that. I mean,
yeah. So I was very lucky because at Eastman Institute for Oral Health, we did a lot of digital training as well. So, I started with the surgical part of my training. So maintaining teeth where possible, as well as when we can't maintain the teeth and save them, we'd replace them with dental implants.
Mm-hmm.
And then went on and combined that into the restorative part. So training from doing complete dentures where we can't retain the teeth anymore to doing implant restorations.
Chris, tell the audience a little bit about, for example, smile design and how we take a patient sort of from when they first come in to the end product.
And that's a neat name, Smile Design. It really tells me everything you do.
Yes. So we use a lot of digital technology. So when a patient first comes into the office, we would do a digital scan, which is replacing the old conventional impression materials. And from that, we also take photos. We have a 3D printer in our office as well as a cone beam machine. But in terms of smile design, we would take our digital impression, merge it with the patient's facial photos, and design a set of teeth. So if a patient has spacing between their teeth that they don't like, we could do an actual setup of how we want the patient's teeth to look, and then try it in their mouth before we even start any treatment. So they can have an idea of where the treatment's going to go before we even do anything.
And the other thing, just to build on that, which I think is extremely powerful, as Kristen said, they get an idea of what is possible.
Yeah.
We're totally reversible. We give them some teeth that they can look at. We design it. But the biggest thing is what we can do, which I like, is to be able to tell them what we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So many times, patients come to us with expectations. They want to, like we all do, we want to look like when we're 17, right? But sometimes we just can't do that. So we were able to show them ahead of time, these are the limitations that we face with your case. Critical, because then we can avoid problems later.
Yeah.
Okay. So the patient not only has an understanding of what they can potentially look at, but also we can avoid problems, which is big.
How long have you been practicing, Kristen?
So my residency program was almost 6 years, and I joined the office.
And that was practice. You were practicing then too. It wasn't.
Yeah.
You're not. That's not all classwork. That's real life
on patients the whole time. And then I've been back probably about 2 years now in the practice. So
you enjoy it?
Really great. I love it. It's a lot of fun working with my dad.
Isn't he not a tyrant?
Sometimes he tries to be, but I like to keep him in line.
Well, it's funny to say that, Bob, and it is funny because I don't want to use the word tyrant, but I will say this, and actually, I do want to mention this as well. We have a phenomenal team. Mm-hmm. We can't do what we do without our team, and we've built a phenomenal staff here in the last in the last year or so, and they support us. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
They're fabulous. But it's just been such a fantastic journey to get us to the point where we are. I'm not a tyrant, but I'll tell you what they hear me say all the time, and they get sick of it. Good is not good enough. Okay, so we want to be, and we are.
I guarantee the patients appreciate that.
That's right. Good isn't good enough. I mean, we want to be the best. And we want the absolute best outcomes for our patients. Yeah. And that's what we strive for. So whether it's Kristen and I, whether it's our staff, it's our front desk people, everything has to be better than good. And that's what we shoot for. So on that, they know with me, they know that, that way I'm a tyrant. We don't.
Talking with Dr. Bryan Frantz, Dr. Kristen Frantz, and we're going to continue with them on BCTV Extra. They'll be right after Paula Rochon Mackarey from Happenings Magazine. And we'll get into a specific case, which I think you're going to find fascinating. I know I do. And we're going to go into more detail. But both of you, thank you so much for being part of the TV version of the show.
It's our pleasure, Bob. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
Well, welcome to our Power Brunch Player of the Week, brought to you by Road Scholar Transport, who are promoting Camp Freedom, that gorgeous 2,000-acre refuge for our military, our first responders, for our Gold Star families. And our special guest and our Power Brunch Player of the Week is Paula Mackarey from Happenings Magazine. I have the copy here, Paula. And this thing just sort of appears, this really neat thing. It appears in our stores or wherever, and I see it everywhere, and I read it. It's good looking. It's happy. It's positive. It's got tons of information. And I'm just very proud of you for doing it, which is why you're here. How did you get into this, Paula?
Well, I went to school for communications, and as happens sometimes with a communications degree, you can go many ways, or you can go nowhere at all in communications.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to be doing. So my elder brother, actually, he's 73 today.
Wow.
He said, well, you know, why don't you go to law school? You don't know what you're going to do. Why don't you go to law school? I did not have an inkling to go to law school, but I thought, okay, I always take his advice. So I was studying for the exam, and I got a call from, I think it was Bill Rissy, who worked for the county.
For the county, yeah.
Yes. And he said, you know, we're at the Visitors Bureau, we're talking, we really, we want to get involved with this publication, Happenings. The owner is retiring, and we thought you'd be great for the job. So I said, oh, I'm studying for the exam, you know, at the time, I was maybe a little cocky, and I said, I'll go on the interview, but I have no intentions of taking the job.
How old are you then?
23.
Okay. Well, if you're not cocky, then you never are.
So I came home from the interview, and I thought, oh, my goodness, this is exactly what I want to do.
And the interview was to work there, to run it, to
yes,
what?
It was with an interim owner. It was actually Sam Mundrake from Carriage Barney Antiques.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the larger advertisers in the magazine, and Tom Reddington, the former owner, went to him and said, you know what, my wife is ill. I need to give this up, and I want you to buy it. So that's who I had the interview with. And
what year is this? Because it started, you had told me earlier, the magazine started in 1969.
1969.
That's an incredible legacy.
Began. Yes, yes, indeed. And the year that I interviewed was 1994. Mm. So next year, I do the math right, it's going to be 30 years, wow. 3 decades, wow. 3 decades of something that I never thought that I said.
An overnight success.
Well.
So tell us a little bit about Paula Mackarey. Tell us about your family, all that kind of thing.
Well, I'm the youngest child of 7, and we're kind of spread out.
Sometimes. The Rochons.
Yes, yes. Rochon, yes. And so my eldest brother today.
She was speaking in French to us before the interview started, by the way, but go ahead.
It is a French name. I'm not sure how French I am, but I do love the language. So we're spread out. My eldest brother is 17 years older than I am, and I'm at the tail end. There were 2 boys first, and then 5 girls. And my parents, my father was a native of Scranton, grew up in the Trips Park section, and my mom was Canadian. And
French Canadian, I guess.
No, actually, English Irish from Ottawa.
That? Okay.
And so she came here. She was a bride, and they lived first in South Scranton. Then they moved to Dunmore. They outgrew that home with all of the children.
Yeah.
And then they settled in Greenridge. And I live in the same house that they purchased in 1961.
Oh, wow. That is fantastic.
It's being painted right now.
And you said the painters were listening to my radio show, which I got a kick out of.
They were. I went outside and I heard it blaring.
Well, I blare. not on Sundays, but during the week. So, Paula, you come and you get a significant position with Happenings Magazine, 1994. Mm-hmm. Tell us how it evolved from there.
Well, of course, I had a lot of energy in 1994. And as in college, I pulled a lot of all-nighters. And I thought to myself in college, because one semester I took 24 credits, and I said, I can guarantee you I will never work this hard in my life because I'll have a job, it'll end at 5, and then I'll get paid for it. I won't be taking exams. I won't be taking any of that. And boy, that was like being at a resort. College was, so a lot of all-nighters, a lot of hard work, because deadlines, it's been 30 years of deadlines.
Yeah.
But I've worked with so many talented and passionate people, and that is the key.
Yeah.
It would not be here. It's beyond being a business. It's a business that I say it's a miracle that it does come out every month, and that my husband still, I will say, it's an old-fashioned term, but still allows me to work on it, because it's certainly not our breadwinner or anything like that. It's a passion. It's a hobby. And I think all of us that work there, the small little staff that we have, we do it because we love what we do.
Yeah. So if you had all right, so 1994, you do this interview, you come on board. You're not the owner immediately, though.
No, I was working at it for about 1.5 years. And the interim owner said, listen, I don't see that this is going to be a business deal for me. I think we have to close it. And I said, absolutely not. Mm. I'm in too deep. I love this. I love putting it together every month. I love how people really anticipate receiving it. And I am going to find a way to make this work. And but I was working a lot of long hours. Mm-hmm. And my elder brother said, listen, if you're working this long, it should be something that you have ownership in.
Yeah.
So we did that in 1996.
Okay. Now, all right. Before you get to Happenings, mm-hmm. What was its mission? What was its mission statement? What was the point of it? Why was there a Happenings magazine?
Well, according to what the former owner told me, Tom Reddington, people did not cross the county lines a lot. And so it was to get people to travel from Scranton to Wilkes-Barre and the Poconos and feel like it was all of our region. So mm-hmm. It was regional visioning back in 1969.
How about that? Which was rare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you take over. You're heavily involved since 1994. 1996, you become the owner, the publisher. Mm-hmm. You're still young.
Mm-hmm. 26.
Yeah, 26 years old. Do you alter the mission? Do you repurpose it? Do you retask it? What were the things that you did, if anything? Because sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What were the things you did once you became the owner of Happenings Magazine?
Well, I, as my husband can probably attest, I have probably more of an artist's brain, and I don't have any consistency in the way I do things. Mm-hmm. So yes, it has been altered every single month to fit, I feel, to tweak where it needs to go. Now, coincidentally, before that, the former publisher for 25 years, Tom Reddington, was an engineer who did the very same thing each month to a T. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I went delivering with him, we were delivering in Wilkes-Barre, and he said, this is where you stop for lunch. It was Pizza Hut.
Only an engineer.
Said, and you order this pizza because it comes out in this many minutes, and the car has to be parked this way because of the one-way streets. everything was identical to a T. But that consistent basis, I think, gave us a good foundation so that when I came in and created a storm every month, it was able to withstand because of its foundation, I would say.
Yeah. But it was about good news.
Always.
It was about, and as per the title, what is happening?
Yes, it was about the events in the area, and it's all positive news. There are no murders. There are no scams. It's all positive. And that part has not changed. But there are many ways now how you can learn about the events in the region. Digitally, anyway. You can find about events anywhere. So I think one way that we've been tweaking it in the last several years is to get deeper with the editorial topics. I'm fascinated by relationships and people, and I love learning about people's backgrounds, how they got from point A to point B in their career, because I think that we can learn from every single person that we run into. And so I think we've taken a deeper approach to have our readers learn about people and learn from each other, to be educated every month, not just on topics, but to yourself. Learn something from someone else, because there is something that we can take away from every single person.
I could not agree more. I was just talking with a friend of mine, and he started telling me about how he grew up. And I thought, everybody's got a story. Indeed. And they don't know it, so many. So you continue to explore that. And your profiles are always excellent. Is that the centerpiece of each issue, a profile, or does it vary as well?
It varies. It varies, but it is returning more and more to the profiles, to the stories about the people. Because again, everybody's got a fascinating story. And everybody has a weak point and a strong point. And I think the confident people can talk about their weak points. A quick story this morning, I found a little video that I came across about Perlman, the violinist. And it was a story about how he had a major concert and one of his violin strings broke. And I love music, so I love to hear this analogy. And everyone expected the concert to stop immediately. He took a few minutes, took a couple breaths, signaled to the conductor that he was going to continue with the 3 strings. And it was one of the most amazing, passionate concerts that he had ever given. And I love that analogy because we're all operating with 3 strings. No one has the 4 strings at all times. No one does.
That's great. Now, putting a magazine together, and it's a published magazine. And I'm still in that age and mentality where I want to touch it. It's a lot of work. Now, one of the things I notice about your magazine every month, the photography and the artwork are top shelf. The feel of the magazine is high end. That's a commitment to cost that you have to make and you have to live with.
Yes, I work for my printer.
Yeah.
I work for my printer. But my late father was a printer, and so I have a lot of respect for print. I do.
So you got a small staff, but you've got to have pictures. You've got to have ad layouts. You've got to have story layouts. You've got to do everything to put the magazine together. So do you still feel like the one-arm paper hanger, or has your experience kicked in where it is more of a systematic thing?
Well, its deadlines are an unbelievable amount of stress. And I mean, the amount of things that could go wrong in one issue, or the amount of typos or anything, wrong ad, double ad left out. The other day I heard someone, they were criticizing a headline in a newspaper. And, everybody's like, oh, I can't believe it. That's what an editor is for. Well, you've never owned your own business. And B, you've probably never worked in media or in a publication, because the amount of the percentages of things that can go wrong, it's astronomical. Yeah. It's astronomical. And people laugh and they say, oh, I don't see your mistakes. There's never been a perfect issue yet.
Yeah.
And when we send out the digital link, we wait. We wait for, first of all, it's the business. Like the readers are fine with everything, but it's the people who are spending their money on advertising. And most of the time we strive, we hit it right. We have few mistakes, I feel, because yes, we've been doing this 30 years.
Yeah.
So we have a inventory of what can go wrong, but there's always something that you haven't had before. And you're like, never thought that could happen again. Never thought that could happen again. So no, it's never been like clockwork, like the perfect, it's never been like that former engineer had it. No.
Nor should it be.
But we take a lot of risks every month. We take risks in design, in topics that we cover sometimes. We do. We are touching a year ago, prior to this September, we did a story on someone who had been incarcerated for 25 years, recovering from drugs and alcohol. And, we got feedback that said, we need more of this.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had done topics like that 25 or 30 years ago, there would have been a lot of people that turned their noses up to it. And this is the way the world is now.
Yeah. More accepting, I guess.
I believe so. I believe so.
Now, with the minute or so we have left, and we're going to continue with Paula on BCTV Extra. Each month, there's got to be a concept going into it. And you've got to say, all right, here's where we start. What's your starting point to say, here's what we're doing?
Well, unfortunately, sometimes if I go to a cocktail party or whatever, my head comes out with so many ideas that I just want to go take a nap. So I run into ideas all the time of topics that I want to cover. I mean, there's typical seasonal things. There's also, breast cancer or heart health or a fair season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some typical things, but every time I run into someone, I click it in the back of my head and I think,
interesting.
I could do that next time. I could do that.
So
that's on the future.
The key is that's interesting. And that's where you start from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Paula, we're just so happy to have you here today. We're going to, as I said, we're going to continue with BCTV Extra with Paula Rochon Mackarey and talk about Happenings Magazine. Get a little bit more into the weeds maybe about how she puts it out and some other things, philosophy and so forth. But Paula, thank you so much for being with us here on WNEP TV. I look forward to the segment that comes for YouTube.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
All right. Thank you to Rhodes Scholar.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
So, Paula, we were talking about the magazine. First, let me ask you, you were starting in this at a time when everything was print.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to touch it. They wanted to taste it. They wanted to feel it. The way people read, the way people absorb information has obviously evolved, and it's in an accelerated fashion. Yet you've still got this beautiful, glossy print magazine. Tell us how you've reacted over the years to this trend, overarching trend, and why you've been able to survive with a hard copy publication.
Well, a quote that I heard that I really embraced, because I kind of like hockey, not so much the fight or brutalness of it, but I love the skill that it takes to play a game on ice. And I said, it's not just important to know where the puck is going. It's important to know where it's at. And when I think about our print copy and I think about our digital copy, I think the puck does go back and forth. And even though so many things have moved to the digital side, there's a comeback of print.
Yeah.
Print may.
I mean,
always go
LPs are
away.
coming back. Vinyl records are coming back, which I love.
So I think that having the two different audiences, we have been able to send the puck back and forth.
Is the magazine the same on the Happenings Magazine website as it is in the print version?
Well, there's two things. The magazine is on the website, and then sometimes we'll be able to have longer interviews.
BCTV Extra. Yeah.
Exactly. And more photos that we weren't able to fit into the print version. But the flip through version, the entire magazine is available with all the ads in a flip through version.
Okay.
So it's digitally two different ways.
Where do you distribute?
Well, that has changed over the years too. Now we primarily distribute to advertisers and our subscriptions. We're really promoting subscriptions. What happened during the pandemic is that people were not in doctors' offices, stores. They weren't anywhere but in their homes. So what we did during that period, that was something. We paid for it. I did test markets. I would pick different zip codes and I would mail it to homes because everyone was in their home.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a nice thing for people to receive during the pandemic, but I would move it around. And so now we are really pushing the subscription part more. But advertisers, like Dr. Frantz's office, you can pick it up at an advertiser location.
Okay. Any other places you can get Happenings?
Well, it does change per month, but I always say high traffic areas. There's a lot of banks, restaurants, but it fluctuates every month, and I do that on purpose.
How many print versions of the magazine do you distribute
It's
each month?
15,000 right now.
Wow. So that's and the coverage area goes in the in the Scranton, in Wilkes-Barre, in the Poconos, and even beyond. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, the Endless Mountains.
Okay. Tunkhannock area up that way.
But the digital magazine has allowed the readership to really, really grow.
Especially expats from this area, of which there are legion. So they get to read and see what's going on and all that kind of thing. Has that spurred on interest now that they can get it without having to wait for it and all that kind of thing?
Well, social media has helped us quite a bit, actually, because anyone who's featured, businesses or individuals, they will always post the link. And if they post the link to the entire magazine, they'll flip through it, and we get a lot of new readers that way. They may not think, if they're not from the area, what is that magazine? But if their mother is featured in it, they're certainly going to read that article and then be led to some other things as well.
Well, I constantly see Happenings Magazine on Instagram, and you've got a really good social media presence, and that promotes everything, but it promotes what you're doing, and it intrigues me to want to get the magazine, to want to read it, to want to go to the website. How important has your adoption of social media been when actually it was considered your competitor at one time?
Yes. Well, I guess I've been a social media user myself, and I see far more of the good of it than the evil. Both exist for sure, but I get out of it what I need and what I like, and I really have fun with it. I'm a big music person, and so one year at Valentine's Day, a couple weeks before, every day I would do a song, my favorite love song of the day. I would have some kind of artwork with it from my family or history or whatever, and I like coming up with creative content for social media. So I like the aspect of, it's not just repeating the articles, but either it's games or competition or just getting people involved. People like to, if it's music, people like to get involved and say, that's also one of my favorite songs. And I hear from different people every time. And then I'll remember it. I was like, wow, I haven't heard from you in 5 years. And all of a sudden that spurred your interest.
You've been doing this for 30 years. Okay. I'm going to ask the impossible of you. If you can, a few issues of the magazine or a few subjects within those issues, which ones stand out to you? Which ones do you remember now and say, that was really great? Or is it just that, we're at a high level every month? There isn't one that stands out. How does that strike you? I mean, how do you respond to that question?
Well, we became known for the red dress issue that began with the Heart Association in February, and that's always a fun one. And like I said, when we talked about recovery, that was something that it was a world that I was not exposed to before, and I was even afraid to talk to the guy at first.
Yeah,
I was like, whatever. And a lot of the wedding issues. I don't know. I love each one.
I actually thought that would be your answer, which is why I knew it would be a difficult. No, just that you couldn't pin it down because.
No, I can't. I really can't. I mean, we work. There's definitely artwork that there's certain. I think all of us and my two art directors, we all have a favorite piece of art, or maybe 5 different covers. One of mine was a sailboat painted by a high school student, and I adored that cover. That was just one that stood out. Beautiful. The painting was just gorgeous.
Yeah. All right. So you've got how many staff help you put this together?
Well, at one time I had a staff of 14.
Wow.
And right now it's 4.
And still get it done.
We do. It sometimes feels like it's killing us, but God gives us enough energy to get up and do it again.
Yeah. You mentioned photography that you put on the website when you can only fit so much within the, and I remember them telling me in the newspaper business, it's almost an inch for an inch. You got to have advertising to have editorial. How do you pick? Is it you that picks the pictures that go in, that picks the stories and the content? Who edits this? Because that's got to be a major task.
Well, I do a lot of it. When with my art directors, the photography, I certainly listen to their advice all the time. In fact, sometimes when we're deciding on a cover, they might present a couple things to me, and then I'll say, okay, I want you each to vote independently. Do not confer, because I certainly respect their professionalism in the art field, etc. In terms of topics, we certainly have to. I have so many stories from my advertisers. I don't randomly promote businesses one over the other. I can find an interesting story about just about any advertiser. So, something with the media is people used to like free stories. I don't do free stories on businesses because I simply can't.
It costs money to put it out.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And I mean, I have people lined up from here to, Timbuktu that would love a story on them. There isn't a soul around who wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I certainly support my advertisers.
Yeah.
I do. It's a business because it's still a business.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nonprofit, but it's still a business.
So each week when you have a subject and you're always, it's really replete with interviews. Do you still do those mostly yourself?
I do a lot of them. There's someone, Kristen Fanning, who I've worked with since about 1994 on and off. And she'll do a couple special articles for us, just about 1 or 2 every month. She did the one on Eric Pochis. We both went to school with Eric Pochis. Yeah. And she likes to do the human interest ones. She is both a writer and now she's an LPN as well. And so sometimes some of the medical articles she has more insight into. Can,
when you do look at these things, you do these interviews, you don't have a point of view. You're just trying to get the information. Does that make it easier or harder?
Yes, that was advice my brother always gave me. He said, you can Not that I have, but he said, you can write an article, you can have a topic in there that's controversial, but you leave it up to the reader to make decisions. And he showed me a couple examples of articles, even one about himself in a publication out of town. And it was done well, and it's up to the reader.
Yeah.
So no, I don't have an editorial stance on anything.
And is that harder or is it easier in your
It's
view?
easier. It's
Okay.
easier. It's definitely easier because, as we know, it's very divisive.
Yeah.
And I go agnostic when it comes to divisiveness.
Yeah. Well, but we need positive content. We need political neutral content. I mean, that's what we do here. I get it. I think that's one of the strengths of the magazine, and I'm sure you do too.
I try to think of it, if I'm allowed to say, my father was a very spiritual man, and he prayed for whomever was in office. And I always thought that was a little different when I was younger, but I see the complete wisdom in that.
What would you? All right, so you're 30 years. Is there's no end in sight, is there? You're still quite young. I know you even look younger than you are, but you look quite young and seem quite young and
I don't
fresh.
know. There's if I didn't love what I do, sitting by a dock, reading someone else's magazine, taking an afternoon nap, that sounds appealing to me. Visiting with friends, having afternoon tea, having evening cocktails, all of that sounds lovely. I don't see it in the cards right now because I feel like I've started something and I have to see it through.
Yeah.
I have to see it through as long as I can.
So you're still fresh, and that's the most important thing with a creative product.
I'm not out of ideas.
Yeah.
I've not come out of ideas yet.
What would you like people to know about Happenings Magazine? What, like, if you were to say, define us, or here's how I want us to be defined at Happenings, what would that be?
I would like each reader to be inspired, intrigued, what's the word? Challenged a little bit, challenged in some kind of thinking, whether it's about being healthier or seeing something from someone else's view or learning how another person got from point A to point B. I want something to stick in someone's brain from each issue and say, I remember reading that about that person or this point of view or something like that.
When you think about your 30 years, what were the toughest times? When you look back, or have you?
Be now.
Have you? Hopefully not in this interview.
No, the days and my art staff and everyone, sales would agree that 3 or 4 days before we actually get to print, that is, you just wish there were 96,000 hours in one day, and there isn't. So that's consistent. That does.
So nothing stands out where you say, oh, this was the toughest time business-wise, or we didn't know how we were going to make it, or anything of that nature?
Well, the obvious, the pandemic, when I had an issue half ready that had events in it. And when I thought about these thousands of magazines and where were they going to go. But, I don't know if God gave me the solution, but it was like a light bulb went off and I was like, everybody's at home. These are going to go to people's homes. That was extremely challenging. Obviously, the drop in revenue, but the payroll assistance certainly helped small businesses like mine with that. I think in recent times, those are the most challenging. I mean, there's always technology things. You lose major work, things like that.
I guess I would say you're so used to overcoming smaller challenges and larger ones,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't recall them that clearly. You just steamroll right over them.
Well, I think my arthritis remembers the challenges. I think so.
Paula, what do people need to know about you, Paula Rochon Mackarey, the publisher of Happenings, that would help them and understand the magazine and its mission?
Well, I spoke about Pearlman. I am playing with 3 strings all the time, but I'm trying to create a beautiful symphony.
Fantastic. Paula, thank you so much for being with us. You were a great Power Brunch Player of the Week. Thank you, Rhodes Scholar. That's it for this week. BCTV Extra. Paula Rochon Mackarey, Happenings Magazine. We'll see you next week and whenever. You can get all of our episodes on YouTube TV under the Bob Cordaro Show on TV. Until the next time.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
So we're back with Dr. Bryan Frantz and his daughter, Dr. Kristen Frantz, who's not only, and I haven't messed this up yet, she's not only a board-certified periodontist, but a prosthodontist as well. That's a fascinating combination, and it's so complementary, as we said in the initial segment, Kristen. I think it just gives you a broader vision when the patient comes in.
Mm-hmm. And it's also very rewarding. People don't realize how much their teeth affect their overall confidence in being able to take a patient from having compromised teeth to having, functioning teeth, teeth that they're comfortable smiling with. That's why I love doing what I do every day.
We're going to talk about a case and leave it anonymous for the moment. And I want to go into it in future segments in depth, because it fascinates me. But tell us about it. Either Bryan or Kristen started off. Yeah,
I'll start it off because I've known this young man since he was probably 12 years old. He was born, unfortunately, congenitally missing a lot of teeth from birth. His dentist referred him to our office for an evaluation to see what could be done at that very early age. And, with growth and development, really, there wasn't an awful lot.
When did you see him first? What age?
About 12 years old.
12 years old.
Yeah, somewhere in that area. Very bright young boy, very intelligent, great family. Unfortunately, at that age, there was really not much we could do because he's growing. He's actually, he's growing. He was growing very quickly, facial development. So we could put in, maybe some temporary devices, and removable devices, nothing permanent. And so, we said, look, we've got to get you to a certain age, usually about 20, 21, and then we'll bring you back and we'll start to do things. And that's pretty much what we did. We had him in a holding pattern for 8 or 9 years. And honestly, it couldn't have worked out better for him because as he turns 20 or 21, Kristen happens to join the practice. Total chance, okay?
And this practice is developing into a premier practice at the same time. I'll say that.
It's a multi-specialty practice, right? And so, multiple specialists under one roof, sharing technologies, sharing information, real time.
State of the art.
State of the art. And as I said to you on the TV segment, our mission is good isn't good enough. It's got to be the best. So when we're looking at cases, we're going to hold ourselves to a very high standard. Not only the doctors, but the staff and the team as well. We want our patients to they expect it and they deserve it. So that's sort of the quick background. I brought Kristen in to do an assessment. As you said, she's a dual certified specialist. She looks at things differently than I do. I'm a periodontist. I'm looking at, sort of the surgical aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I get the implants? Does he need sort of regeneration of bone, et cetera? She's looking at the teeth reconstruction. That's her expertise.
Yeah.
So we have this little game in our office. I look at them, then she looks at them, and then I realize what I didn't see. So we get together daily, and that makes it fun. So, tell us.
What did you
Yeah.
see, Kristen?
So-
what did you see in this young man? And
Yes.
it's remarkable that your schooling is going on as he's patiently waiting
I know.
for the opportunity
I know.
to have
The
this
timing
happen.
really worked out perfectly.
They talk about it, whether it's in the realm of cleft palate, whatever.
Right.
Mhm.
This is a life changer.
It is. This case has been wonderful for me. And the first appointment that I saw him, I, took all my photos, my records, but I really wanted to start with doing a smile design in his case. He was congenitally missing teeth, and now he's in his 20s. He's never seen
Meaning
himself.
missing teeth from birth. He
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
born without a lot of
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
And no chance.
I've been hanging around with you long enough to know what congenital means.
The audience might not. I just learned it last week,
Oh,
so I'm showing off.
So it was important for me to start the case with doing a smile design, as we talked about previously. So on the first appointment, or this second appointment after I collected the records, I tried in the teeth to approximate where I wanted them to go. And he told me he's never seen himself with that many teeth in his mouth before.
And his mother.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the second appointment, once we were starting to get into whether we were going to go towards the implant phase, I asked him to bring his mom to the appointment. And so he did. And I showed her, and she had tears in her eyes and just said how deserving he was, and how
I do
she's
too
never
right
seen,
now.
I know how she's never seen him also without teeth. So
I mean, think about it for a minute. Literally, I went in to see, how things were going. He made a comment. Again, I've known him now. He's in his 20s, so I've known him. He's a young man now. He said, "This is the first time that I've ever smiled in my life that I have teeth."
mhm.
Okay, think about his position in life. He's a young man.
Going through all that growing, you got
High
enough
school,
headaches
college,
as a
yeah.
Trying to find it. He's now looking for a job, and again, he's an extremely bright young man. But that's holding him back. Relationships,
Yeah,
job
everything.
seeking, self-esteem, everything.
Mhm.
But to hear that, and honestly, that's what we do. That's what we want. That's why our practice is there, to be able to take these cases and to be transformational is the word that I use.
Yeah.
Let these people have do what we can to get them back.
So tell us about the process.
So when patients are missing their teeth from birth, a lot of times the bone needs to be rebuilt before we can have enough bone to put
Because it never had to be
implants
there in the first place.
Exactly. So in this case, it was really important to me. I knew that the grafting would have to be done and it was going to take a long time, but I wanted to give him a full set of teeth from the first appointment so that we can do all this grafting, but he's not going without teeth for another, 6 to 9 months. So the first appointment, what I did was I gave him a temporary set of teeth, like crown and bridge type of teeth that are cemented onto his natural teeth for now. And then he needed to have sinus grafting done, where we do bone grafting bilaterally.
This is major operation.
Yes.
Major procedures.
Yes.
It is. I mean, but I will tell you that the therapies have developed in such a way that, and the technologies, that we can provide these major things in a somewhat minimally invasive way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Second visit, he walks away with a full set of teeth.
Yeah.
For the first time in his life.
first time in his life.
And you'll be able to see the before and after. We'll bring that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after I gave him the full set of teeth, then I started to do some of the grafting procedures, which now he's healed from, and we're ready to move on to the next phase, which is the implant placement, where we place the implants and fix the teeth in the same day.
Right,
so he'll always have a fixed set of teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an important point, actually. So these are not removable. These are teeth that look like teeth, function like teeth, very aesthetic materials. Kristen, uses the state-of-the-art materials, actually, in terms of, the cosmetic aspect of what she does. And many of these cases, Bob, they don't have the bone to put the implants in. When teeth don't come into the mouth, many times, the bone's not there. It's very thin.
Yeah.
But and again, to speak to the value of what we're doing as a team, but specifically for Kristen, she can recreate that bone.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
She can recreate the bone to have a foundation to support these implants. And I think it's extremely important to realize a healthy male in the United States today is going to live to 85. So think about that for 1 minute. And this is
Yeah.
something we talk about all the time, whether they're in their 20s, 40s, 60s, whatever. You got to look at that and say, this has to last him 60 some years.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a tall order for our team, right? So when we do things, we have that lens to say, okay, how can we design this and get everything in a way that's going to last him the longest? And things will happen over 60 years.
Sure.
Mhm.
They're prosthetic devices.
Yeah.
So we design it so it's easily fixable. We're not having to start over. What's our strategy if something happens? And all of that is what we do. But having a dual certified specialist that knows the surgical complication with the tooth complications is big.
Kristen, you and your dad are going to go to speak in Austin, Texas soon. You're going to lecture.
Yes.
You're going to teach dentists what you know. I find that
Yeah, we're
incredible.
very excited. We're doing a lecture on how we've incorporated digital dentistry into our cases
Yeah.
from single teeth to full arch.
Yeah, this is it's a national meeting of the American Academy of Periodontology, and it's an international meeting. I think was it a year or two ago?
Year
We
ago,
were in
yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Is it a year? And so we have
it was so much in demand, that show with you and Bo Dietl, that we repeated it.
it's probably more for Bo Dietl than me, but that's fine. That's good. But yeah, we were asked to give a lecture at this meeting, and
Jointly,
yes,
together.
yeah,
Mhm.
together, and it's really what we're doing in our office, bringing that to our members from across the country, and saying this is how we collaborate, as a team.
I think that, that's one of the things about science, medicine, the collaborative nature of it. You're willing to share what
Oh, yeah.
you've learned as pioneers
Yeah.
in the area. And they're saying, well, where are they from? Northeast Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
And then they find out, well, you're many steps ahead, but yet you're still willing to share
Mhm.
what you know, what you've learned.
Yeah, it's really important. And we love sharing what we learn and hearing also from other dentists, what they do. And that's how we always are bettering ourselves and staying with the literature. And
We had
Yeah.
as I had mentioned to you on the TV section, he just completed a course in Budapest, Hungary. This guy is Van Urban. He's the world leader in bone grafting, vertical bone, meaning growing bone downward or upward. And arguably, he is the best. And I had a chance to go there and study and talk about an individual who has has given his professional life to this, and he's willing to share this with people from all over the world. I mean, that's what we do as healthcare professionals, right? We try to make it better for the patient. And when we find out a way that we can do that, it's just ethically the right thing to do, to share it with your colleagues. Yeah. So the patients benefit in the end.
I think it's a great thing. Kristen, Bryan, tell us what else were you going to tell us?
Well, I didn't want to tell you, but
I
I'll
know.
let her-
Please do.
My dad is also in when we're in Texas being awarded with the gold medal, which is the highest honor from the American Academy of Periodontics. And it's for
And last year was another, and they said,
Distinguished
we're not
distinguished
done with you yet, Dr. Bryan France.
It's
Oh my
actually
gosh.
it's the highest award that our specialty gives,
Yeah.
and I had no idea that I was getting it, which makes it even more special.
We got to get us some film
Yeah.
of that for next future
Yeah.
segments.
Yeah, they asked me to write a letter of recommendation on his behalf, along with many other people.
And I still got it.
But they told me, don't say anything, so I'm keeping it a secret. And they said that every single person they asked to write a letter on my dad's behalf accepted, and it was like overwhelming how many people wanted him to win this award. And I was so happy when he got it and he finally found out. And it was
a big deal.
Yeah, it's
That's
a really
a
big
big
deal.
It is. It's humbling, and as I say to Kristen all the time, I mean, and it sounds cliche, but these awards really, as you know, they're everybody, right? You can't. It's not about me. I couldn't do it without her or my wife Linda for our colleagues and our patients and our mentors. You could go on and on. But I'm very, very humbled by it. But at the same time, you know, I'm very pleased. I mean, it's the highest award they give in our specialty. So, you know, 30 to 35 years of work. So, anyway.
I see someone else who might get that next generation across the studio from me.
I challenge her every morning.
He does. Yep.
So you are back in the area?
Yep.
You made a conscious decision to live here?
Yes.
I think it helped a great deal that you were jumping into a practice that was world class.
Yes.
And that you could make better.
Yeah.
But you must be happy with your move living here in Northeast
I'm very happy. And there's nothing like living around family. And that's the main reason why my husband and I wanted to move back here and, you know, raise our daughter with my parents here. And they help us every step of the way. And then working, I always joke, I'm so lucky because I work with my dad. My mom's on the other side. She makes me lunch every day.
She finds time between
somehow
patients.
She makes me lunch, yes. My grandmother works in the office 2 mornings a week. And my sister
Joan
and my
Frantz,
husband
who
are
sent me,
dentists.
by the way.
Yep.
She sent me a picture from the wedding. And it was smashed to smithereens when I got it.
Oh,
does
no.
she know that?
No, I'm telling her now.
Oh, no.
She's gonna go
because I told you I had to. And so we got another frame. I framed it. It's on my desk at home.
Great.
But I want you to let her know it was smashed to smithereens.
She knows now.
Every piece of glass was broken.
You know,
she sent it by regular mail, and
you know, it was great.
I couldn't wait to bother her about it.
You know, you and Tom Durkin, John, Steve Haas all got that, you know, and what was really great for me is the letters and the phone calls that she got from those guys. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, you know, Tommy Durkin wrote her, you know, it's just unbelievable, you know.
Yeah. And I made fun of her on TV. She got that.
She loves that. Is that me? Yeah, that's better. She actually
will love it.
Yeah.
Joan Frantz, my hero. Well, I wish you great luck.
Thank you.
Continued success. Kristen, and I cannot wait to have you back to share with this audience cases that you've done, some photos, some whatever. We had a few here, but I'd like even more of this.
Definitely.
I can't get enough of it. I mean, you know, you're changing somebody's life. You're transforming their life, as Dr. Bryan Frantz had said. It's an incredible opportunity, and an incredible responsibility.
Yeah, it is. But it's really why I love what I do every day. And I'm so happy to be able to provide that to the patients of Northeastern Pennsylvania. And I definitely look forward to sharing some cases moving forward with you and your audience.
Very good. Well, we're happy to be introduced to you, Kristen, even though I've known you since you were in swaddling clothes.
I know.
But introduced you professionally on this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kristen, Bryan, thank you.
Bob. Thanks a lot. Yep.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
You've got an appointment every Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WNEP TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty. It's the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.